somewhere above us, a door closed. The sound was clear as day. It was followed by footsteps crossing the floor above.
Though, a couple of things. My left nostril is running, so there's gonna be a lot of one of those. But I'm gonna try not to do that so much, or I'm gonna edit it out. Second, one of my wife's best friend is here with her daughter. Her daughter is 2, and it's late at night, so I'm not gonna be doing all that, spazzing out, yelling at Toby type stuff. But I'm gonna throw in the beaver scream if I have to spaz out, but I'll do that. That's all. Let's go. Sup? No. Got your snacks, cuddle buddy, and come on. You got it. Kai, what's up?
Not to get too deep into backstory, nor disclose too much personal information about myself, but I'll just come right out and say it, that I've always been a reclusive person.
A what?
Ever since I was a young kid. I didn't have many friends at all, and I spent most of my time playing video games on the computer, or varying consoles I grew up with. Right. As I got older, like high school, I started to get into just going on long walks exploring.
What?
I'd walk through the woods, walk through cemeteries, and then I developed an obsession with trespassing.
Wow. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of like you growing up, I didn't really have that many friends. I was kind of like to myself, kinda. But I'm not gonna lie, like, no part of me ever thought about doing what you're doing. See what I'm saying? My nostril.
Places I wasn't supposed to be. It started with sneaking into cemeteries at night. Then I started getting more experimental with it, like exploring abandoned hospitals and schools. When I was finally able to drive, it made accessing all these places much easier, of course. I only went with one of my few friends once or twice. Honestly, I enjoyed it more by myself. Part of my weirdness includes the fact that I don't get scared exploring abandoned places at night by myself.
You should.
Or perhaps I should use past tense and say, I didn't used to get scared. How I used to find a lot of abandoned structures was simpler than you might think. I would just go on Google Earth and zoom into rural areas. Then I would look for abandoned-looking structures in unsuspecting places. I would then make a list of 5 to 10 locations of these structures and try to visit them all in one day. Sometimes they wouldn't be abandoned up.
So, you having a full day of doing cluck activity. A full day of cluck activity. That's crazy. Like, that's actually, that's wow. A whole day.
But I eventually got pretty good at gauging which ones would be. This hobby involved a lot of walking through woods. And yes, before you ask, I did have a job. I worked a minimum wage job as a stock boy at a supermarket. So when I wasn't doing that or in school, a lot of time I was doing this. One of the places on my list one day turned out to be an abandoned little church. I had to park on a dirt road and get out of my car to walk. It was about a 10-minute walk. I'd always wear jeans and boots so that I traveled faster through the woods without hurting myself. I started noticing old, rusted garbage cans and other junk scattered in the woods, indicating I must have been close. And then I saw the clearing in the distance approaching, along with the structure. And there it was, some dilapidated old church sitting in a random clearing in the woods.
Wow.
It had an old well right in front of the building. I walked over to it to see if it had been sealed, but...
An old well? On me, I'm getting the grudge. Or is it the ring? Which one of them creepy girls came out of that well and started crawling? It's one of them.
It hadn't been. I looked down, and it was so deep that it was pitch black down there. When I stopped and listened, though, I heard something down there.
Oh my God.
It was a faint clicking sound. It happens like on a rhythm. 1 click after 2 seconds. It didn't sound like water droplets. The best I could describe it is a stick being tapped on a stone wall. Curious, I stared down for longer than I probably should.
Yo, I really wish I could just spaz out right now. I have a feeling that I'm going to be using the beaver scream a lot in this video because I want to spaz out so much. Just go in there. Just go in there. If you're so curious, just go in there. You know, just I can't really.
Kind of like I was hypnotized by the sound.
Wow.
But eventually, I broke out of my daze and decided to go inside the church. I stepped onto the creaking wood porch, and the rotted boards gave slightly under my weight. The large double doors were ajar. Not surprising. Out of all the abandoned structures I visited, unless it was a very well-known one posted frequently in the subreddits, there wouldn't really be anyone boarding these places up. I pushed one door open further, which led to a loud groan that echoed through the trees. The air inside was thick with dust and the scent of old wood.
Jesus.
Light poured through the shattered stained glass windows. Some of the pews were overturned or missing entirely. The pulpit stood crooked at the front, and behind it, an arched doorway led further into darkness. I did the usual, scanned the inside with my flashlight, and took a few pictures from my archive on my digital camera. There was an eerie beauty to the decay, a holy place like a church in near ruin. It was beautiful but tragic. I walked slowly.
Yeah, nah, that's not the words I would say. It was clucked. And tragically clucked.
To the back of the church where the arched doorway was. I stepped through it and found a narrow hallway that led to what looked like old storage rooms. One door was missing entirely, and the others were splintered or hanging off their hinges. Cobwebs clung to the ceiling everywhere, and then I saw at the end of the hallway was a stairway leading down into the basement.
Oh my God!
Jackpot, I thought.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong? Like, genuine, that's a genuine question. If the person that wrote this story, right, sees my reaction to this first story, just comment below. That's me. I'm going to ask you in the comment section. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if you're ever going to see my reaction to your story. But comment, that's me. And I just want to ask you genuinely. Or email me. Let's have a full conversation. Because what is wrong with you? On everything I love. I feel like there's going to be trolls in the comment section talking about, oh, that's me. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Like I said, I used to not let anything scare me. Nothing within reason, at least. Something about exploring abandoned basements excited me.
Man.
But this time, something about that basement door hanging open, leading to the darkness below, made me pause. I, honest to God, got a slight chill. But
you didn't get a chill when you was looking down that well outside? That well that just leads into abyss? Come on.
I started down the stairs slowly, and each step creaked so loud that I feared I'd fall through the wood.
Jesus!
And then I counted 7 steps until my right foot landed on one that gave way with a loud crack, and before I could react, it collapsed under me. I fell hard and landed in a pile of junk and dirt below the stairs. I fell directly on my ass and hurt my tailbone. I let out some kind of audible complaint, probably a "God damn it" or something. My flashlight flew out of my hands, so I crawled over to grab it. That was when I heard a voice.
Oh!
It was a higher-pitched sounding voice,
Oh.
either a woman or a young boy. It was saying words, but I couldn't understand any of them except for one thing. They said hello. The rest was gibberish, like someone trying to talk but didn't know how. I stood up and pointed the flashlight around. It was just an old basement, some busted furniture, mostly cots, a dirt floor, stone walls. But then I saw a tunnel in the wall.
Man!
It looked like it was dug out by hand.
Oh my God!
As I approached it, I realized the voice was coming from down there. I started walking toward it. I was being dumb, but I had to know what it was.
You're not dumb. You're not dumb. You're just a cluck. You're clucky. You're stupid.
I stepped just a couple of steps inside the tunnel and looked around. The walls were rough, not smooth. It had definitely been dug out with a shovel by hand. My flashlight started flickering, and I nearly had a heart attack. I hit it a few times, and it stayed on. Doing so made a louder noise than I anticipated, though. The voice got louder, still just gibberish with that same weird tone, but I could now confirm it was coming from deeper inside this tunnel. And then it stopped. Everything was quiet for a few seconds. Then I heard a click. 2 seconds later, another click. Same rhythm and sound as the well, and the sound echoed. These clicks and the gibberish echoing voice were getting louder. My heart was now in my throat, so I turned and ran back. I reached the stairs and remembered one of the steps was broken. I found it easier to grab the sides of the stairs and pull myself up, instead of trying to hop over the broken step. My flashlight dropped, but it didn't matter. I was leaving the basement back to the light of the upstairs. I got to the top and didn't look back. I ran through the hallway, through the main room, and out the front doors. I ran past the well and stopped for a second. The clicking sound was gone. There was no noise at all. Come to think of it, it was dead silence. I didn't even hear any birds.
So it's probably, that well is probably connected to that hole that's connected to the basement.
I looked down the well one more time. Still pitch blackness. With that, I turned and ran through the woods, making it to my car much faster than I made it to the church, albeit completely out of breath. I cut the day short and didn't explore the other places on my list. This was just one of those experiences where you don't know what to think, and you just drive home in silence with the music off. I didn't give up my hobby of exploring entirely, but I took a break. I was admittedly very spooked. I hope it was just some other kids exploring in there, trying to mess with people.
It wasn't.
But I don't know. When I think about it, that sounds really unlikely.
You almost got clucked up. Anonymous. You know they were scared.
This happened to me a while ago, and is still stuck in my mind. Me and my friends often like to be in the outdoors. I'll refer to my friends as John and Anthony. We were bored and decided to go fishing deep in the woods near some farmland.
Wow.
We were chased out by a farmer and his dog. We tried to hide, but his dog found us, and he threatened to call the police, even though he was already on the phone with his friend, which we found weird. Honestly, we kind of found it funny. So, for whatever reason, we thought it would be a good idea to go back the next day and sneak onto the property to explore it. It was nearing about an hour before dark, and this property was huge, acres upon acres. We had to hike through some deep woods, similar to the one we had been fishing in before. Although we scoped it out on Google Maps, it was still easy to get lost. I remember thinking to myself that we should be out of there before dark. At first, everything seemed normal, and I wasn't getting any bad gut feelings. We were admiring the horses and petting them. I remember thinking it was weird having all this farmland and only horses. I compared it in my head to my uncle's farm, which is a lot smaller, but has about 10 different types of animals.
Damn,
not
Jesus.
just one.
Oh my God.
I just brushed it off and thought that maybe the owner specialized in horses. After walking through the woods, we reached the fence bordering the property. John was leading the way, I was in the middle, and Anthony was behind us. This is when we stumbled upon a rundown house with multiple trophy cars and a broken down RV. We were shocked at the discovery and snuck around some of the cars. There was also a very creepy rundown shed. It was crazy to see. I even took this video.
Oh. All right now.
multiple Porsches, Range Rovers, Ford Raptors, Bentley sports cars, Corvettes, and Ferraris. The deeper we got and the more cars we saw, we realized we probably shouldn't be seeing this, since...
No. What do you expect? What do you think no trespassing means?
The cars were parted out. We suspected it was probably a criminal ring stealing cars. After we had seen all the cars, John decided it was a good idea to explore the inside of the camper while Anthony kept lookout.
Okay.
I held the door open for John since he's kind of the smallest, so I thought he would be best suited.
I'm not gonna lie. If I was Anthony and I'm the lookout, if something happened, if I see something, I'm out. I'm not saying that for nobody. I'm just leaving.
To explore it. There was evidence somebody was living there. Fishing rods, fresh food, bedding, and other stuff. Although the camper was run down, we understood it was somebody's home, so we got out of there. I forgot to mention, there were also car tires inside. We were not there to break or destroy anything, just look around. We snuck around to the back of the property where all the cars were. There were side-by-sides, and we made the connection that they were probably used to run the property. There was also a rundown shed, and when we went inside the back of it, we caught a foul, horrible smell. We kind of just brushed it off and laughed, joking that maybe it could be a body. None of us really believed it, though. Then we heard the gate at the entrance of the property open and slam. It was about 1,000 feet away. We were heading back to the wood line because we didn't want anyone to see us, and that's when a van turned onto the street we were on.
Oh.
It was nearing dusk, and the headlights were on, so we sprinted through the woods, not sure if he saw us. This is when we probably should have left, but we decided to explore the other side of the property.
Oh my God.
After walking along the outskirts and hiking through more woods, there were a lot more horses, but we finally got to the main house of the property. Again, it seemed very run down. About 25 feet to the right was another camper, or at least what looked like a camper. It was massive, about 50 feet long, and probably hadn't moved in 50 years. We almost missed it because it was completely covered in vines. Right next to it was another rundown jet ski, also covered in vines. We managed to get the door open, but didn't want to make too much noise since we were so close to the main house. Even though it seemed abandoned, we wanted to be cautious, not just because we were trespassing, but because there was similar suspicious stuff on both ends of the property, which I could only assume was connected to the car stealing ring. I knew if we were caught, it would be a problem. We snuck.
Yeah. If y'all get caught, all three of y'all, condoms on condoms on condoms.
The house and saw what was probably the most luxurious car on the property. Although it was run down and old, it was still an amazing sports car, a Ferrari. I didn't get a picture or video since we were still near the main house and the horses were making a lot of noise. We got sketched out on the far end of the property. There was a boat and cooler inside a fridge. John looked around the boat, and the cooler was about 15 feet into some very thick vegetation. We joked about the probability of a body being in there.
Alright, this is the second time y'all said something about a body. I feel like that first time y'all said something about a body, because of that horrible smell, it probably was a body. I don't know if it was human, I don't know if it was an animal, but it was definitely some sort of body in there. And the second time, yeah, y'all keep, this is, the universe is listening, you know? Y'all keep saying something about a body, and the universe is like, all right now. Y'all say one more time. It's like the universe is saying something like, all right now, say one more thing about a body, and I promise you're going to see something. I promise you. Okay, y'all keep talking about bodies, y'all keep bringing up bodies. I'm going to show you something, and y'all better not freak out, because apparently this is what y'all wanted.
At this point, the mood was still kind of jokey because we were exploring something we weren't supposed to see. When we got closer to the freezer, another terrible smell came, like the smell of death and rot.
See?
We decided to back off, assuming the worst, and didn't want to open it in case there was something we really didn't want to see in there. We got a bad vibe, and we were on our way back when Anthony started hearing things. We paused and listened with him.
Why we pausing?
We heard the noises too.
Why we pausing?
I can't really describe them. I don't know if they were just normal wood noises or if everything just seemed amplified because we were paranoid.
What?
The vegetation was about head high, and there was a rock that each of us took turns standing on to get a better view of the property. When John went up there, we were still laughing and joking. Then he turned to us, looking like he had just seen a ghost. He wouldn't speak, so I decided to get on the rock and look for myself. What I saw is seared into my brain. Over the vegetation, I saw a man sitting at a table with a black cat. That wasn't the scary part. When I looked at his face, there was no hair, no eyes, no mouth, no nose, no facial features at all.
What?
You can call me crazy, but I know what I saw. We were about 50 feet away, and it felt like the man was staring at us, but we genuinely couldn't see his eyes since he had no features. There was also a woman with him who made direct eye contact with me, and that was the moment she started running in a direction to cut us off from the property. I don't know if the man's featureless face was real, or if he had white medical tape or bandages covering it. I still can't decide, but his face was pure white, and his head was very small. I still can't get it out of my head. After that, it was still dark, and we had a long hike through the woods to get back to where we came from. We felt as if we were being followed almost the whole way, and we almost took a route that was 2 miles out just to get away. There were weird noises like stomping feet, galloping, and screams. We tried to be quiet through the woods, but also tried to move quickly. We ended up making it back and made sure we weren't followed. I genuinely still don't know what that was, or if it was human, but I can't get this experience out of my head, and I know none of us will ever go back.
That man that you probably saw, that had no eyes, no mouth, no features, that probably could have been like a dummy or like a...
I went to a quarry.
Or a what? Whatever. That could have been like a fake something to make it look like it was real. That could have been, I don't know. But I'm just that's just my thoughts on that.
Texas, and I will never go back there again after what happened to me. Here is a little backstory, so this will make sense. The first time I went to this quarry, it was pretty sketchy. Me and a couple of my friends, Josh and Miles, went to this quarry for cliff jumping, since we had seen some YouTube videos of people cliff jumping at it, and we found out that it was only about a half hour away from where we lived.
So a quarry, it just seems like a little pond, or not little, but like just a big body of water. So like a lake, or something like that, or I don't know. Why would you? So what's the difference between a quarry and like a lake, or a pond, or a big body of water? Like that literally looks like what it is.
Both Miles and I are old enough to drive, me being 16 and Miles being 17, so we thought that it would be a really good idea to go. Once we got to the quarry, it had a really sketchy vibe to it. There was a small dirt road that led up to the quarry, which made a circle around it. To the left were these ghetto-looking white buildings, which were pretty much just white metal boxes, and to the right was the fence that surrounded the rock path that led to the quarry. We drove down this road in Miles' Jeep, and there were tons of signs saying stuff like no trespassing or warning, blasting zone. And there was even this big white piece of cardboard that read, trespassers will be shot on sight.
Jesus!
It's important to note that in Texas, people can legally shoot you if you're on their property, but it just doesn't really happen much. We decided to drive back to the beginning of the road where there was this gravel parking lot by an old building which looked like it hadn't been touched in years. Miles parked the car, and we all reluctantly got out of the car and began our walk to the quarry. While we were walking, a truck drove right past us, and the driver just kind of looked at us with a blank expression on his face. Honestly, it was pretty scary when the car passed us, but the fact that he didn't do anything made us think maybe they don't care too much if we're on their property. We kept on walking, and then we came to the fence where we were supposed to jump to get onto the rock path that led to the quarry. We went to the smallest cliff jumping spot first, and saw a pretty big snake swimming in the water after the first 10 minutes of being there.
Oh my God.
So we decided to wander further down the quarry where we saw a decent-sized cliff, about 35 feet. After depth checking it, we spent about an hour cliff jumping there before we got bored and moved on to the next cliff. We were at the very end of the quarry, and we were walking down a path to get to a bigger spot when we saw a black Hummer stop. The lady in the Hummer was probably in her mid-30s. She rolled down the window and yelled, "What the f*** are you doing on my property?" It honestly kind of shocked us all, and I responded with saying in an innocent voice, "What do you mean? We thought this was public property." She knew we were lying straight to her face and yelled at us some more. Then she said something that I'll never forget. She picked up her phone and said, "John, get the gun."
Oh my God.
Me, Miles, and Josh all froze. We were scared to death. She said to follow her and drove slowly down the path about 20 feet to a gate. We decided to follow.
Why? Why did you decide to do any of that? You literally heard her say, listen, John, get the gun. And she talking about follow what? Follow me. What? I'm not. I'm out of there. I'm out. I'm like Dash. I'm running on that water. I'm getting the hell out of there.
We're all saying that we were so sorry and that we would never come back again. And she let us go after saying the cops are on their way, so you better haul ass that way before they get here, and pointed towards the dirt path that led us away from her property. We told her thank you and ran faster than any of us thought we could. Then we got in the Jeep and drove away. I wish this was the end of the story, but it isn't. A couple of months later, Miles asked me if I would ever go to the quarry again, and I reluctantly told him that if we had a bigger group together, then I would go. We got a group of 5 together and went back to the quarry in my car.
She threatened y'all with a gun. Right? You're on her property. And you literally verbatim said, we will never come back here again. And what are y'all doing now? Y'all back at it again with the vans.
I drove, and after about an hour, we arrived at a church which we would be parking at, which was about 2 minutes away from the quarry. We didn't want the lady somehow seeing our car and getting our license plate number. We walked down the dirt road that led to the quarry and passed by a few cars. One car stopped next to us, and a guy who was probably in his early 20s told us to watch out for a black Hummer. We laughed and told him the story of what happened the first time that we went to the quarry, and then we were back to walking down the dirt road. We jumped the fence that surrounded.
But I don't understand what's so funny about that, though. You have a random person. First of all, you already had a close encounter with this lady. And then now you go back and a random dude is saying, watch out for like a lady in a black Hummer. And y'all laughed it off. I would not be surprised if one of y'all got shot or clucked up. You told her that y'all wasn't going to come back. And you're back. So now, from this point on, whatever happens to you, that's on you and I don't care.
And decided we would just go to the second spot so that we would at least be a tiny bit out of sight of the dirt road. We were at the spot for about an hour and having fun when a silver van pulls up at the end of the dirt road about 25 yards away. It wasn't the black Hummer, so we weren't running away just yet, but we were getting our stuff ready in case we had to run. It was for the most part out of our sight due to trees being in between us and the van. We waited there for about a minute and thought that the guy was just doing something in the car when we heard 2 loud gunshots really close to us. The gunshots scared us half to death. The exit of the quarry was not very close, probably about 300 yards, and about 125 yards to get on the main dirt road which led off the property. I led the way, with my friend Aiden trailing not far behind me. I heard more gunshots about 40 yards away, and it sounded like he had shot about 8 shots so far, but when I looked back, I couldn't see the guy who was shooting at us. We got to the fence and jumped it, and we were now on the main dirt road that led to the exit. Out of pure luck, the guy we had talked to earlier, who had warned us about the black Hummer, was in his white truck on the dirt road. We begged him for a ride, and he gave us a ride back to the end of the property. We thanked him and then ran back to the car. We all got in the car and drove away, never to see that quarry again.
Let me tell you something. Once I get like my own land, and I got like security cameras and stuff, or if I catch you on my land, and I kind of like threaten you, or if I don't threaten you, if I be like, if I catch you on my land and I tell you don't come back here, or you tell me you're not gonna come back here again, and I say okay, and I let you off, I let you off the hook. If I see you back on my land, it's GG's for you. Close the curtains. It's over. It's wraps. Cause I gotta cuck you up. You know, you lied to me. You knew you was gonna come back here. My nose. Okay. Ralphie, did I say that right?
Back in 2018, my cousin Ryan and I were really into urban exploration. We had been to old factories, shuttered schools, and forgotten farmhouses that looked like they were one good windstorm away from collapsing. We were not stupid about it. We checked floors before walking on them, wearing masks where there might be asbestos, and avoided any place that seemed like it might be actively guarded. Still, there was one place we'd been talking about for months that neither of us had worked up the nerve to try. The big abandoned house on the shore of Lake Harlow. It was the kind of property you only ever saw from a distance, sitting far back from the main...
So let's keep it like that. Well, obviously not in this story, but I'm just saying. In my eyes, let's keep it like that. That we only see from a distance, not up close, not inside the house, only from a distance.
Behind a set of tall iron gates that had been bent inward years ago. Pines and brush had grown wild around the driveway, hiding most of the place unless you caught a glimpse through the trees while driving past. Local rumors about the place were endless. The most common story was that a wealthy family had lived there in the 90s before suddenly disappearing. People claimed they'd left in the middle of the night without taking anything. Furniture, clothes, dishes, even family photos were supposedly still inside. Theories ranged from financial ruin to witness protection to something even darker. No one had ever bought it afterward, and the property had just sat there, decaying for more than 2 decades.
Jesus.
The afternoon we went, the weather was gray and still. We parked at a hiking trailhead about a half mile from the property, and we walked in through the woods to avoid being seen from the road. As we got closer, the roofline appeared through the trees, and I realized just how big the place really was. 3 stories with tall windows and a wide wraparound porch, all in various stages of rot. Paint peeled off in long strips like sunburned skin, and sections of the porch sagged inward. We circled around to the back, moving quietly in case there was anyone nearby. The back door was unlocked, and the moment we stepped inside, the air changed. The air was still and smelled faintly of lake water and dust. The kitchen was the first thing we saw. It looked like a movie set frozen in time. Plates were stacked neatly on the counter, and a coffee cup with a brown ring of dried residue sat beside the sink. The cabinet stood open, showing old boxes of food that were long expired. A faded calendar on the wall still hung open to May 1997. We moved through the downstairs slowly. The living room still had furniture draped in yellowed sheets. The fireplace was still filled with crumbling ash, like the last fire had burned out decades ago. Family photos were hung in the hallway, with people smiling at barbecues and dressed up for Christmas. Honestly, I got the chills for some reason as I looked at these photos.
For some reason, I mean, check out your house that you're in. Check out the environment. Check out the club activities that's going on. You know? Check out what you're doing at this moment. You talk about you got the chills for some reason. Man, what?
Something eerie about seeing cheery family photos in a long-abandoned house. Some of the photos had sun-faded so badly that their faces were almost ghostly white. Upstairs is where things started to feel off. The first bedroom we entered had a perfectly made bed, but all the dresser drawers were open and completely empty. Another room's floor was entirely covered with newspapers from 1997, each one folded open to the classified ads section. I didn't think much of it until I noticed the dates. They were all from within the same week in July, and every circled ad was for private buyers looking for quiet transactions. The master bedroom was the strangest. The heavy curtains were drawn shut, but when I pulled them back, I found the windows had been boarded over from the inside. The closet door had a rusted padlock on it, and the floor in front of it was scratched, as if someone had tried to drag something heavy out but couldn't. Ryan wanted to force it open, but I talked him out of it. We didn't have tools, and I wasn't eager
You might as well force it open. Y'all already inside this house doing all kinds of stuff. You might as well, you know?
Something in a place where we weren't supposed to be. He suggested we check the basement before leaving.
Yo, every time somebody mentions a basement, I can't. The basement, the attic, the crawl space, I cannot.
The door was in a narrow hallway off the kitchen. When we opened it, a wave of damp, cool air came up that smelled strongly of mildew. The stairs were wooden. Each step down creaked like it might give way under us. The basement was big, with thick stone walls and wooden shelves along one side. Most were empty, except for a few rusted cans and a broken lantern. But in the center of the room, illuminated in our flashlight beams, were 5 chairs, all mismatched and old, but arranged in a perfect circle.
Wow.
Unlike everything else in the house, they weren't dusty. The seats looked recently used.
Oh my God.
I was about to whisper something to Ryan when we both froze. Somewhere above us, a door closed. The sound was clear as day. It was followed by footsteps crossing the floor above. We killed our lights instantly and stood in the dark, barely breathing. The footsteps paused, then started again, moving toward the hallway above the basement. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. We hadn't seen any cars outside. We hadn't heard anyone else since we got here. Whoever was up there hadn't made a sound until now. The footsteps stopped again, this time directly above the basement door. Then the sound of the door handle rattling made my blood run cold. Ryan grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the far end of the basement where a small ground-level window sat broken and half covered by a rotting shutter. It was barely big enough to fit through, but we didn't care. I went first, scraping my jacket on the glass, dropping down into damp dirt outside. Ryan was right behind me. We sprinted into the tree line, not daring to look back until we were well into the woods. When I finally did glance over my shoulder, I saw the basement door wide open and someone standing in it. They were too far away to make out any details, just tall and still. It looked like their head was tilted slightly, like they were watching us. We didn't stop running until we reached the car. Both of us were so disturbed that we barely even spoke on the car ride home. That night I just kept replaying it in my head. Everything from the chairs, to the footsteps, to the locked closet, and then that horrifying image of that figure on the porch. So a couple weeks later, Ryan called me and told me that after he made a post in a Facebook group asking if anyone knows about the history of that house, an older guy responded to his post saying that there have been sightings of someone in that house, and the first guess would of course be a squatter. However, that wouldn't explain the strange, almost ritualistic looking circle of chairs in the basement. At this point, it's not my problem to worry about. Just happy we got out of there in one piece.
It was about to be. It was about to be your problem. I don't feel nothing, no empathy, no sympathy, no cluckety about any of these people in any of these stories. You know why? Because it said no trespassing. If it did, even if it didn't say no trespassing, it's as clear as day that you're not supposed. It's abandoned. It's as clear as day that you're not supposed to be there. You know? Prime example. The abandoned church with the well in the front. Come on. And come on with my nose, man. Jesus. Those same people that went onto other people's property that clearly said no trespassing are the same ones that's going to get clocked up to the max one day. And I just want to let you know from the bottom of my heart, I'm here for it. Okay, I gotta go. My nose is going crazy. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you. Stay happy. My family.